Well, good morning again, everybody. My name is Joel Adorman. I'm the lead pastor. So glad you're with us today, whether you are in-house or online. And for those of you joining us online, we do want to say a special welcome to you. We never forget about you on the other side of the lens, and we're just so glad that you're joining us wherever you find yourself today. But if you're ever in our area and you're close by, we'd love to see you in person. And if you are still gauging on when to come back and you're a little hesitant on crowds, know that we actually have places reserved in our extreme left and right of the worship center that we give people a little more space. The pews are roped off every other pew. Just a little more space as folks are getting reacclimated to crowds. So whenever that time would be, we'll be so excited when you can join us again. You know, I tend to be a very loyal person. It may not surprise you, maybe it does, but I tend to be a pretty loyal person. I tend to be loyal to certain places and people and products. When it comes to products, I tend to be kind of Apple everything. Even my music is Apple Music. My movies are Apple iTunes. You know, if I'm watching shows, that's on Apple TV. That's just kind of my thing. My Bible study software is Logos Bible Study software. I've used it for like ever. I don't remember when I first started using it. It's been so long. And I'm very loyal to it. I don't even think twice about those products. I just do it. Well, people, I'm obviously really loyal to my wife. That's a good thing. Yes, good thing. If I plan to sleep in the bed and not on the couch, that's a great thing. I'm loyal to my kids. I'm loyal to people. There are places I'm loyal to. There are restaurants that I will go to as a default because I'm just loyal. It's not that I don't want to try something new. I'm just really loyal. And so if you say, hey, Joel, where do you want to go eat? I'm going to say about the same 2 or 3 places. Even though I love variety, I'm just really loyal. Well, what about you? Are you loyal to certain places or people or products? Whatever. You probably are. There are probably certain default things you go to and you reach for. Nothing is wrong with that, of course. We're all that way. We just rarely stop and really analyze and think about, where are our loyalties? I mean, where are your loyalties? Where are you loyal? Where is your loyalty lying? Is it with certain things, the acquisition of certain products? Is it to be known? Is it to make a name for yourself? Because we're all loyal to something. Something gets our attention. Something drives us. Now, last week we talked about that in terms of goals and life goals and what are we driving towards just as a pursuit of life? And today we're really talking about the next part of that, which is, well, where's your loyalty? What are you loyal to? What are you driving for in terms of like your number one thing in life? Because if we don't answer this question, we're just going to default to whatever is around us and whatever we're told to feel. And that would be a problem for disciples of Jesus, because if we're disciples of Jesus, our first loyalty is supposed to be the Lord. But our culture is not going to reinforce that by default. I mean, they're going to be okay with some religion here or there, but they're not going to reinforce that kind of loyalty. They're going to say, well, live this way, which happens to be selfish and happens to be getting what I want out of the deal and being loyal to yourself. Or in the context of what we're talking about, being loyal to money, being loyal to wealth, being loyal to stuff. It's kind of the American way. Greed is kind of built into our culture. It's just kind of who we are. We can be honest about that. So in this message series, Coins, we're looking at this teaching that Jesus did that spans Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 34. And like I said last week, it's such a big passage, we've broken it up into 3 parts because we didn't want to gloss over the little stuff. We wanted to stop and look at it because in just a few words, Jesus is saying a mouthful, and he's kind of punching us in the nose every time we read the next phrase. It's kind of his way. He generally did that, but he really is doing that in this passage. And so last week we talked about in part number 1, that whole thing of goals. And what are the goals that we have for our life and how much money tries to be that first goal we have. And I ended last week with talking about looking at your budget. Look at what priorities and goals your budget is revealing in your life. And today we're talking about loyalties. Talking about what is getting that preeminent spot in your life. It is a continuation of where we were last Sunday. So it's Matthew chapter 6, 22 through 24. We stopped at verse 21 last Sunday. And it's page 661 in the Pew Bible there in front of you. And if you want to use that and see it in print, words are also going to be on the screen. You can look it up on your smartphone. Even if it's not Apple, that's okay. I think Samsung devices can still connect to the internet, I think. Maybe. Free Wi-Fi passwords actually on the back side of the bulletin. So you Samsung users with limited data plans, we got you covered. I'm picking on you. I love Samsung devices. They take great pictures, but I just don't use it. I'm not loyal to that brand. Message notes there in your bulletin as well, discussion guide for your small groups. Page 661 in the print Bible. And if you do not own a print Bible of your own and you would like one, please receive this today as a gift from us. We would love nothing more than for you to get your first copy of the Bible as today and to be able to take this home with you. And we have plenty of these to replace it with, so don't worry about taking the only one on your row. We'll replace it. Page 661 there, whether you're borrowing it or keeping it. Words are also on the screen. You can look it up on your own. It doesn't matter to me how you get there. I just want you to see it for yourself and realize we're not making this stuff up. Matthew chapter 6, verses 22 through 24, Jesus is still talking, and he says, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." And Jesus starts in this first phrase of verse 22, reminding us of something we already know, but we don't always want to admit it, and that is where we stand determines what we see. He says, the eye is the lamp of the body. Now, this is actually, by the way, I'm about to give you an answer in the discussion guide for your small group. Okay, so those of you trying to get ahead and get your homework done before you get to small group, which you all should, it's actually question number 4, letter A, okay? I'm telling you, I'm about to give you the answer, so don't go into your groups this week going, I couldn't find the answer. I am about to tell you the answer. It's important, okay? It matters. That's why we're asking a follow-up question on it. When Jesus says this, he's talking about the eye is the lamp of the body. He's not talking about our physical eyes. He's talking about our perception. Now, he made our eyes. He made our bodies. He made our perception. He made our minds. He knows all this stuff. But our physical eyes are really amazing. I mean, science is so cool. And as someone with bad eyes and has to get his eyes checked out all the time to make sure I don't have problems, man, me and ophthalmologists are like this. And the eyes are amazing. But did you know we don't actually see with our eyes? We see with our brain. Our eyes are just really super high resolution image capturing devices. They're like cameras, more like video cameras, just really ultra high definition. And they take these images and they transmit those images through our optic nerves back to our occipital lobe, where then it mixes with other parts of our brains and tells us what we see and how to feel and what we're supposed to do with that information. It's amazing. And it's amazing how God created our eyesight. Matter of fact, I want to prove this to you, how your brain works. I want to show you some pictures and just see what your reaction would be. Here's my first picture for you. Now, why did you do that? I knew you were good. I've been practicing all week, and I knew someone was going to go, oh. It's just a picture with black and white and brown and pink and red and green. Because your brain tells you to feel something. Your eyes just see an image. Your brain puts some context to this. Okay, how about the second one? Here's the second picture. One of my favorites. Isn't that just warm and inviting? Oh, that looks great. I love this picture so much. But it means it transmits something. Okay, third one. This one's great. A grandmother with her granddaughter, big smiles on their faces. I mean, this reminds me of kind of just some times I had with my grandmother. Maybe it reminds you of that too. If you've had a grandmother on, you knew them on earth. And my grandmother actually died when I was in college. So I remember being a little kid with my grandmother. I remember some of those adventures I had. But that brings back a lot of memories that has nothing to do with these two ladies. It has nothing to do with those people. But it's me. I'm not just seeing with my eyes. My brain is putting something else there. And here's my fourth one, last one. How about this one? All your smiles just disappeared. That was awesome. That's why I looked at it. I was waiting for it. If you're watching online, you should have seen it. I wish I could have just done a reverse and just shown you. Everybody just kind of went, oh. They just mirrored exactly what they saw. Yeah, why? Because it's not just the image itself, it's what the image means. It's why we say a picture is worth a... Yeah. Because we're not just seeing with our eyes, our brain is telling us to feel something and to enact with this image, and it pulls up the past and our emotions. And that's what Jesus is saying. Where we stand, our perception, our foundation determines how we see things. We don't really see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. Our perception is based on what we're standing on, or our vantage point is, how we view life. Optimists see things a certain way. Pessimists see things a certain way. Realists see things a certain way. Opportunists see things a certain way. And that's going to affect everything they see. Jesus is saying your eyes, your perception is a lamp for your body, as in your lifestyle. Your whole world is based on how you perceive something. Then he goes on, second part of verse 22 into verse 23, where really he's applying what he just said. So he makes this statement about where we stand determines what we see, or to put it in my words. Now he's going to apply this. He's going to give these illustrations in the second part of verse 22 and 23. Look at it. Here's what he says. If your eyes are healthy, in other words, if your outlook is based on Jesus, on the firm foundation of the Lord, that's what we would say by healthy, then your whole body is full of light. Your outlook is based on Jesus. Verse 23, but if your eyes are unhealthy, that'd be like a Christian who's kind of living with some wishy-washy perspective. We're not really fixed on Jesus. We're kind of winking at him, and the other eye's down here. Then he says your whole body is full of darkness because you can't really go two directions. Your eyes are kind of off of him sometimes. That's a problem. But then he goes on. He gives the last thing. If the light within you is darkness, in other words, you don't even have Jesus in your life at all, then how great is that darkness? Now, that seems like a little convoluted way to make an illustration about money, because bear in mind, that's what he's talking about in this whole passage. He's talking about money. He's talking about how we do this, and you may go, man, that is a weird illustration for it. But Jesus is a master teacher, and he's driving to the point of what he's trying to get to, but he's got to get us along the way. He's got to bring us along with him before he punches us in the nose in verse 24. But he's actually making the same point in verses 22 and 23 as verse 24, and that is what you see, what you perceive will determine how you live. And so he's trying to get us to perceive and live in a way that honors the Lord. That's why he says this in the final verse, the one where he ends, the point. Verse 24, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. You can't have one eye on him and one eye on the world. You can't. That's what he's saying. Our loyalties aren't really divided. We can just be in denial about it. That's what he's saying. He's saying your loyalties really aren't divided. Now think about it. Most people can work one full-time job. 40, 50 hours, maybe 60 hours a week. You can do one. You ever tried to work two full-time jobs? Not part, full. As in 40, 50, 60-hour-a-week jobs and try to have two of those, or three. If you've ever tried that at any point in your life and you live to tell the story, congratulations. But secondly, you know what Jesus is saying. You can't do both well. You're not going to be able to give full attention to both of these things. It's not going to happen. You're going to love one and despise the other. Or put it in terms of loyalty, you're going to be loyal to one, but you're not loyal to the other because you're now doing this thing. And when you come over and do this one now, you're not going to be loyal to that one. See, the problem is money demands our utmost attention. If you really want to do this thing the way the world's telling us to do it, you're going to have to give it utmost attention. You're going to have to consume nothing but financial information. You're going to have to obsess on the stock market. You're going to have to look at every law that's ever passed that deals with every single drop of your money, and you're going to have to become an expert's expert if you really want to do this right. But Jesus is saying, so money demands your utmost loyalty. Oh, but the God of your soul also demands utmost loyalty. So that's when he spits in our eye and says, you can't serve both. You're kidding yourself if you're going to try to. See, you had to get there by way of 22 and 23, because if you're standing in a way that goes, okay, I got one eye on God, one eye on my money, he's like, you're fooling yourself. No, you don't. You actually have your eyes on your money. Because Jesus demands utmost loyalty. He demands complete dedication. And there is no second. And where we stand, if we're standing on him and we see our money through the lens of him, we will treat money very differently. See, it's easy for us to get ourselves off the hook on this. It's easy for us to say, well, I don't have any money, so it doesn't apply to me. But there's something we have to remember in this passage. He's speaking primarily to people who would be considered poor in their day. He wasn't talking to primarily wealthy people. Yeah, there were a few, of course. I mean, you had the Pharisees there, you had the Sadducees, probably the occasional Roman procurator. I mean, wealthy people would have heard him. But primarily he's dealing with just salt of the earth, regular, just poor people. That's who he's talking to. And I remind you that the very definition of wealthy practically is the person that makes a few more bucks than I do. So they're rich and I'm not. Well, we can't let ourselves off the hook on this one, because we have to realize that Jesus is saying there's no income level where greed kicks in. We can be greedy at all income levels. I'll concede the point that it's a lot more obvious at higher income levels. It's more obvious to everybody, but you can be greedy and have 2 pennies to your name, and you can be greedy and have a few billion pennies to your name. You can still be greedy, and Jesus is saying that's still a sin, that's still a problem. You're still living with a loyalty that is fixed on the world, and Jesus is saying your loyalty needs to be fixed on me, and now you're going to deal with that money very differently. You may still have it, but you're going to view it very differently. It's a different lens. It's a different outlook. You will see and perceive differently because you're standing in a different place. You're not standing trying to get more stuff. You're standing on the Lord and trying to serve Him with that wealth. Same wealth, very different perspective. And of course, let's bear in mind kind of the less obvious point, and it's this, that compared to most of the world, the people under the sound of my voice, even people online watching this on smartphones that cost $1,000 a piece. You ever priced a phone for real? Or an iPad costing a few $100s, or a computer costing $1,000 or so. Whether you're online or in person, we are among the top 10% of the wealthiest people on the planet. The poorest of Americans are wealthy by the world's standards. And if you own 2 cars, you are in like the top 5 or 6% of the world in terms of wealth. Now, our context may change that, and you may not feel very wealthy. Okay, fine. But compared to the world, we are. So no matter how we slice this, He's talking to us that you can't go both directions. You can't be loyal to God and loyal to money as well. Which is why what Jesus is trying to get over to us and help us see in this part of this passage is this. Our first priority is revealed by our approach to money. It's revealed. It is shown. Its perception is made clear by our approach to money. It's not just having it. Don't walk out here saying, Joel's saying wealthy people, their first priority is filthy money, and poor people. No, I'm not saying that. I didn't say that. It is revealed by our approach. I say it every time we have this conversation. I say the same thing. Some of the most generous people I know are very wealthy, and some are very poor. But they're both very generous because their approach to money reveals their first priority is the Lord. It has nothing to do with income. Maybe related to your budget a bit, but it has nothing to do with income. It's everything to do with our attitude, where we're standing, what we're seeing, how we perceive. That's what it has to do with. So John the Apostle writes this in 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 and 17 through 17. He says, do not love the world. Now, when he says world right there, he's not talking about the people. He's talking about the pattern. He's talking about the pattern of the world that Jesus is talking about earlier in Matthew, where he's talking about this pursuit of things that don't honor God. He says, do not love the world or anything of the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. Ouch. For everything in the world, and he defines it, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That doesn't come from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. Because our culture tells us, get, spend, get more. God is saying, invest well and do those things that matter. See last week's message for more on that. We talked about that. But our first priority is revealed by our approach to money. So that means we have to be careful to express our loyalty and to express it in the right way. Now, we've talked about the baseball diamond of giving before. I love this illustration. I love a good visual illustration, whether it's a picture of a puppy or a baseball diamond. But you got to understand that what I'm about to walk you through in the next few minutes is entirely based on the biblical idea of, to put it in my terms, that you pay where you eat. Oh, here's what I mean. If I go to lunch at Jant's Cafe here in Merced, I'm not going to pay Josie's in Atwater for my lunch. I didn't eat at Josie's, I ate at Jant's. I pay where I eat. So what we're going to talk about is you pay where you eat. If you are here growing in the Lord, here is where you give to the Lord. You give through your local church to the Lord. That's the way God designed to fund His enterprise. We're going to get to how we give to others in a minute. That's part of this, okay? But let me walk you through it. So the batter's box down here, this is the bottom rung. This is the basic level. Now, this is good. This is good that you'd be at the basic level because it means that you're giving. You're giving something, but it's more like a gym membership. You're going to give a little bit here and there, and if you're not here, you're not going to give because you're not receiving anything. But it's good because it means you've started. You're giving. You're growing in this grace of giving, as the Bible talks about. That's good. As we advance, we go to first base. Now, at first base, we're on spiritual gratitude giving. Now, this means that we're grateful for what the Lord has done in our life, and now we begin to give a little more, but usually at this point, it's a percentage of our income. It's a portion of it, and it's fairly regular. Maybe we even set up automated giving for this kind of stuff. First world problems. We have automated giving. But that's why we do that, because we're grateful to the Lord, and we say, okay, Lord, I'm going to give this back. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm so glad to be a part of what you're doing. So now we go to second base. Second base is spiritual obedience giving. Now, this is where the biblical concept of tithing comes in. This is when we understand, okay, I'm going to be obedient to what the Lord's called me to do. So I'm going to give him 10% of my income. That's the biblical standard called tithing. And wherever you are so far on this baseball diamond, that's awesome. The goal is always going to the next step. It's never beating somebody up because they're not on second base or fourth, there's no fourth base, or home plate. It's not beating somebody up because they're not around it. It's just saying, good, there's your starting point. Get to the next step. That's our language around here. It's not beating you up. It's saying take the next step. Now, I got to pause right here real quick, because people will sometimes ask, Joel, am I supposed to give 10% of my gross pay or my net pay? That's a good question. Now, I have two answers, though. Depending on where you're at spiritually, one answer may help you more than the other. My first answer is this. If you go to buy a house or buy a car, what number do they use for your buying power? Your gross before taxes and before all your deductions, or do they use your net? That may be your guide. And if you're going to do that to get buying power, it seems your giving power should match. But that's one answer. My second answer is this. If you're asking the question, what you're really asking is, okay, Joel, what's the way that I can give the least amount of money but still get credit for it? Net or gross? I want to be faithful, but I just want to do it the cheapest way possible. You're giving, and that's good, but it just means that we got to grow right here, okay? And I can make fun of it because I have been there, all right? I'm on the same level you are with that one. I was there. I get it. Okay, and it is a fair question, but like I said, I think the first answer might help you if the second didn't. Now, you're round second, you come to third. This is now sacrificial giving. This is what the Bible refers to as giving of tithes and offerings. See, this is now where the Lord has blessed us individually. We begin now to give to other organizations. We give to other places. So we've been talking about paying where you eat, and we're still paying where we eat, but now we begin helping other organizations and giving that money elsewhere. Because we funded the ministry of where we're at. Now we're responding to nudges from the Holy Spirit. Now, you cross that, you come all the way to home plate. You hit a home run. This is spiritual love giving. This is the point the Lord wants us all at. This is just radical generosity. It's open-handed, complete generosity where you just say, everything I've got is yours, and I'll give everything away if you tell me to. This is like the story in the New Testament of the widow who gave the last few pennies she had, and then Jesus said she gave more than all the rest because she gave everything. And the only answer you have for that kind of giving is just, love makes me do it. Or it's like the woman with the alabaster jar who breaks that and she pours a year's worth value of perfume on Jesus' feet. Why? She loved him. And that's the only answer she could possibly give. This is radical. So what we need to, we're just trying to walk around those bases. We're just trying to take that next step and take baby steps to get there. That's how Jesus has designed to fund his whole enterprise. It's through us. He gives us the discipline and the joy of being part of this. And actually tonight at our Connect Night, you actually have a chance to hear part of someone's story, a real live person who's gone through, actually it's a couple, who've gone through this at our Keep Connecting tonight. Sam and Felicia Katrina are going to share part of their story about why they tithe and how they can budget for it. And what I love about that is they're not just talking about, we give because we have to give. I mean, they talk about the spiritual stuff too. But they also talk about how they just nuts and bolts practically, how do they make this happen? And if you're not planning to come to Connect Night, sign up for it. And you also get a free meal out of the deal. So you can do that too. Now, if you're going to 201 or 301, that class happens simultaneously and you decide which one you want to go to, but because it happened at the same time. But that is going to be incredible. It happens at the same time as all of our other classes, 6 o'clock tonight. And you're going to want to hear this because their story is so cool because when the Lord taught them what he taught them, they weren't these wealthy people, all well-to-do, upper middle class with upward mobility. They weren't. They were newlyweds. So you're going to want to hear that. That's tonight. You can sign up on your connection card. If you forget on your connection card, you can hit up at the info center or get out your phone, whether Apple, Samsung, or BlackBerry if they still work. And you can register. Actually, it won't work on BlackBerry. Scrap that. It'll work on the other two. And you can register for that. Because what Jesus is trying to get us to see is that our priorities, our loyalty is revealed by our attitude towards money. Not the amount of it, but our attitude, our perception. That we're being trained in loyalty to the Lord because he's trying to get our eyes off of our money and onto him who gave us all that money. Now next week we're gonna talk about the last part of this passage, and really as Jesus brings this whole thing home with how these coins really add up spiritually to make an eternal difference in our lives.